Vincent Parlatore, tell us a couple of reasons why you'd be a better legislator than Marie Woodson.
Well, I'm going to say that I know Marie from last time. We had a very nice campaign last time also. I can actually see that Marie has been putting bills in, and that seemed like it'd be conducive to my line of thought with some of those also. That would be for the betterment of the community. We have our expertise in both in different fields. Mine is more in law enforcement and military, and making sure that the community is safe. And I have different ideas about how to do that. Obviously, we do need without safe community and safe schools, you can't move on to other things that need to be done within there because it's a total distraction on there. I can't say one way or the other how much better I would be than her. All I could say is that I would be resilient and continue doing what she does and what other legislators do for the good of the community as a whole, and not for the betterment of myself or anybody else. It's certainly, I'm sure Marie and I aren't doing this for the money and the amount of time it takes to go back and forth up to Tallahassee at 463 miles.
Give me a quick follow-up question. Give me a specific idea you have how to make Broward County a safer place.
My specific answer is going to be obviously not to defund the police, since I'm retired law enforcement. I'm retired from BSO, and I'm retired from the military. I served in the Persian Gulf in 1993. Most of my adult life was serving the community in one way or another, specifically for school safety, which I don't like certain issues with that. I'm not for teachers being armed in school. You have to have a lot of training for something such as that. My daughter's a teacher down here in Pembroke Pines, which I do have a concern for her safety. My question is going to be, I would push for somebody like myself. I do have a carry concealed permit, plus I'm retired from BSO. That being said, I also carry what they call HR 218. If you're not familiar with it, retired law enforcement to uphold a larger qualification, firearms qualification than most. My issue with that is that why, if I'm allowed to carry in the 50 states with that qualification, why am I not allowed on school property?
Okay, Vinny.
I'm sorry, Steve.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I don't want to be disrespectful.
That's fine.
The question was what we in the media call a softball. I asked you for one concrete way to make Broward a safer place, and here's what you said: don't defund the police. You served in the Gulf War, in the Persian Gulf. You're retired BSO. You oppose arming school teachers. I'm not hearing anything specific there. Sorry. A specific idea to make Broward a safer place.
One, I would like to hire more officers. I would like to put more officers on the street. I like to back the cops.
Okay. One other quick law enforcement question. I think it's been an issue in the district. It's not per se a legislative issue, but you'd be a community leader. Pembroke Park is in this district. Am I not correct?
Part of Pembroke Pines is the district, correct?
No, I said Pembroke Park.
Pembroke Park, I'm sorry, correct.
Yeah.
You're correct.
Pembroke Park is in the process of disbanding, I think, its contract with the sheriff's office, and is creating a local police department. Is that the right action? Is that the right direction for them to go in?
I'm familiar with that, and if they think it is, I think it's not. It costs, for a startup for a police, it costs a lot of money. They're going to have to deal with the non-expertise that sheriff's department has. They're still going to have to go to the sheriff's department for specialized services, such as if they need a helicopter, if they need mutual aid response. They're not going to be able to handle it, as far as I'm concerned. So bottom line is, no, I don't think it's the right thing to do, because it's going to cost them a lot of money. They're probably going to have to raise the taxes.
Okay, very good. Let me bring Representative Marie Woodson into the conversation. Marie, I'd like you to tell us, tell myself, tell Dan Sweeney, what have you done in Tallahassee that is deserving of another 2-year term in the legislature?
Thank you, Mr. Bosque. Thank you, Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Mann, and also I'm glad to see my opponent, Mr. Vincent Parlatore, this morning. As you know, I was elected in 2020 to serve the residents of District 101, soon to be District 105. And as a rookie, I went to Tallahassee and delivered for the people who sent me to Tallahassee. I introduced 7 bills during the first session, and also I introduced more bills during the second one. And I'm pleased to say, out of the bills that I introduced, 5 of those bills were passed in Tallahassee. 2 of them were passed as standalone bill, and 3 of them were passed as amended into other bills, which I can talk to about all of them. 1 on affordable housing, 1 on mental health, 1 on special needs children, 1 on taxation that we're seeing right now. Anybody who got the home destroyed during this hurricane that we just seeing that happen in Florida, they won't have to pay taxes on the remainder of the year. And also 1 on homeless youth, an issue that is very dear to my heart. So I was able to pass those 5 bills. I was also to secure $2.2 million in the budget, even though some of it was vetoed by the governor. And most recently, a few weeks ago, we had some additional funding to the House where I submitted requests. I was able to secure, Mr. Parlatore mentioned law enforcement. I was able to secure almost $400,000 for Hollywood, $380,000 for the police department in Hollywood, $250,000 for the police athletic league, and also $250,000 or $75,000 for the colon cancer screening for one of the clinic in the district. So I'm a legislator who has gone to Tallahassee, former legislature that is 78% Republicans, 42% Democrats. I was able to deliver for the people in the district, and this is why. Thank you. And I would say, Mr. Bosque, if you allow me, added to that, I have taken every issues that the residents are going to. During COVID, I was able to have 5 drives to bring the services to the people as opposed to them going and wait online to get the vaccination. I was able to, whatever the issue is in the community, I'm there to serve. We're finding some issues with driver's license where people are waiting for long lines, all waiting for 3 to 4 months to get an appointment. I was able to reach out to Tallahassee and have a DMV mobile unit camp to Hollywood recently, a week ago, where the people came in and get the driver's license renewed just in doing 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm delivering for the people. I'm working very hard for the people of my district. Thank you.
Okay. I want to switch back to Vinny Parlatore. One question. You know, we've seen in the last 2 years in Tallahassee a lot of emphasis on what some people refer to as culture war issues, and I'm speaking of what teachers can teach about race, whether young elementary school children can be presented with any discussion about gender identity issues. We've had questions about empowering parents to have much more of a say as to whether books are or are not allowed in school libraries. I could go on and on, but you get the idea. And Vinny, my specific question to you is, on any of these bills, most of which Marie Woodson voted against, can you cite any of these bills where you would have voted differently and why?
Some of those bills that are in there, first of all, kids K through 12, you are what you are. You know, myself and Marie were both Catholic upbringing. You can't change your gender identity just because you say that's what it is. You know, most of the time, I think we can agree that between 21 and 25 years old, you're really not reaching the age of maturity and decision making. It's school is there to teach, not indoctrinate, and it's there to teach you reading, writing, arithmetic, how to get along in society and deal with that. This is a parental thing. This isn't a school and government issue as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, Okay, if I heard you correctly, and I'm in a motor vehicle, but I can see and hear everybody pretty well. If I heard you correctly, you said, quote, "You can't change your gender identity just because you say that's what it is." Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. You can't. How are you going to do that? I mean, you know, like I told them, I'm going to go get a little blunt with it, because once this started coming up with transgendered bathrooms, etc., I emailed a corporation that was going to start this, and I told them, I said, you know what, being how I am, protective, I said, let me see somebody walk into a woman's bathroom behind my two granddaughters and see who walks out. I'll tell you, that's exactly not correct. There's laws on the books about this. And I says, all of a sudden somebody can use this. The bathroom is to relieve yourself. It's not in locker rooms. It's ridiculous. There's no reason for it.
With the statement and with the tone of the statement.
I'm sorry, Steve, you're breaking up a little bit.
Steve's probably just heavily lagged, so we'll come back to him. But
that's fine.
I believe he's muted as well.
Yeah,
I'm looking at it. It looks like he's muted.
Dan, can you relay the question? Dan,
yeah. Well, I didn't quite get your question, Steve, but we can hear now. There you go.
Okay, my point is, I want.
Shoot. Well, while we're waiting for him to catch up, Representative Woodson, if you could respond to what Mr. Parlatore said, how do you feel about that view? What do you agree with?
Well, my record proves that I am in support of those kids. First of all, as a mother of two, I've always told people I support the rights of those kids and of those parents to make decisions based on what they see fit. A kid who is either gay or transgender, it's not for the state to decide what they need to do. We need to stay out of that. If it's anything, we need to support those kids, because they are going through a lot of issues where they are not wanted, that they feel that people are treating them different. And Mr. Parlatore needs to realize, if one of his kids come to him and say they are gay or they are transgender, how would he deal with it? Wouldn't you want your kid to have all the support that they need in order to do what they think is right for them, or what the family, how the family needs to support them? This is my response, and I have voted in support of those parents and of those kids as well.
I'm gonna open the floor to Dan Sweeney or to Anthony Mann for questions.
Tony, I'll defer to you if you have anything.
Mr. Parlatore, could you amplify on what you meant when you said if people went into the transgender accepting restroom, you'd see who would come out? What did you mean by that?
What do I mean by that? Being in law enforcement and being protective and a parent, I'm going to tell you straight out, somebody's going in there, it's for other means than using a bathroom, and they would be escorted out there. And my granddaughters would definitely be unimpeded with any male gender in there like that. They're going in there for ill-gotten gains. And I do agree with Marie. I do know people that are gay. Transgendered, I can't say I do know, but yes, they do need counseling to go with the state. And I don't have a problem with that, where they can get some direction of what they need to do. And, you know, what you do in the four corners of your house is your business. What's going on in public is another.
Well, are you assuming that someone who's transgender who has to relieve themselves is going in to do something inappropriate?
Well, you know what? I don't see any other reason for why a man would want to go into a woman's bathroom to relieve themselves. I mean, that's not the purpose of the rest facility. and there's no reason for that. I'd like, you want somebody, would you want a man going into your daughter's bathroom and exposing himself to her or him? I don't think so.
Well, we don't know that the person is exposing themselves, but anyway, is there anything you'd like more to say about that? Representative Woodson?
I am speechless. Why would Mr. Parlatore think they're going into the bathroom to expose themselves? You don't. Why are you judging why are you judging them in the first place? They're not going in there to expose themselves. They're going in there just like anybody else to relieve themselves. So why would you assume? And what really bothers me about this topic is the fact that the younger generation, the kids growing up, they tend to accept each other as they are, where they respect someone if they are gay or they are lesbian or they are transgender. They respect the LGBTQ plus community. They really support each other, as opposed to listening to Mr. Parlatore talking about how they going in there to expose themselves. No, they're not going in there to expose themselves. They're going in there to relieve themselves just like anybody else.
On another subject, Mr. Parlatore, on a political subject, can you explain the circumstances through which you, at the very last minute, dropped out of the state Senate race too late for another Republican to run and then producing an open primary? How did that come about? Why did you do that at the last minute?
I figured that was going to come up. It's come up before on a question with that. It was nothing malicious or no intent on my part of that. Once I put in for that, I said, I saw Maria was running again, and I didn't see anybody else there. I was actually going to support Maria against Mr. Uden. I then decided to try and go with the state Senate race instead. When I went with the state Senate race, I didn't realize the political background that the two candidates in the primaries had. And I thought with Lauren Book, her father is well-to-do. He's got very well backing as far as financial backing goes for her. I didn't believe that I was going to wind up being to overcome that. And I thought I would just be better off in the area that I know over here in District 105, which is where I've been for 42 years. And that was basically my reason behind it. I think I would just had a little bit better outcome over here should I get elected.
Why did you wait until the last minute?
Well, everything was just up for that. And after consideration, it just took a while, and then by the time I put the paperwork in again, it's just a process.
It still doesn't quite explain why you waited so long to make that move.
Well, I just, like I said, I discussed it on there, and once I finally figured out that it probably wasn't going to work out. I mean, some things aren't a split-second decision, some are. I mean, it just after due consideration, I just felt it was a better choice for me to stay with District 105, since these are basically within the cities that I know and people that I know over here.
Did you have any discussions or conversations or contacts with Lauren Book or Ron Book or anyone connected with either of the books?
I did not.
Have you received any financial contributions from Ron Book or anyone?
I did not. You could check my campaign funds. No, I did not.
Thank you.
Okay. Vinny, you've had a long career in both the military and in law enforcement.
Yes,
you've been around government a long time. Tell us the approximate size of the current state budget. What's the current state budget of the state of Florida? How much money?
The actual state budget itself, I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to make up things because I'm not 100% sure what it is. I do know they have a fairly large surplus by the Constitution they have to have, and it's about $21 billion in the state surplus. What the actual budget is, I don't know, so I'm not going to make up things on that.
Okay. Marie Woodson, can you tell us what the approximate size of the state budget is?
Yes, sir. It's $109.9 billion. And with all due respect to Mr. Parlatore, if you're running for a state, and if I may, Mr. Bosque and Mr. Sweeney, Mr. Mann, if I may, Mr. Parlatore made a statement when he looked at Lauren's book, Father, and also Lauren's book, he decided not to run for office. Is that how we judging seat for us to run for a seat, or we want to run because we have our hearts in the right place to serve the people? I guess because I do not have a father of that stature, he decided to come against me while he doesn't even know what the state budget is. I think it's baffled me how some people who wants to run for office, what they are thinking, how they are thinking. And there was a statement that was made to me actually that I don't even want to discuss here, similar to what Mr. Parlatore is saying. It's time for us to really think better for our state, for us to really think better about the reasons why we're going into politics, the reason that we want to run for a seat. So I did say how much the budget was, and Mr. Parlatore does not even know the state budget, the budget that we have to balance in order to make sure that everything in our state, the programs and everything else, we allocate certain fundings for what needs to be done for our state.
Back to Vinnie Parlatore for one related question. Vinnie, Marie Woodson just said it's a budget we have to balance. First of all, is that true? What does Representative Woodson mean by the budget has to balance?
Well, I'm going to back up what I said previously. By the Constitution of the state of Florida, we can't run a budget deficit, a deficit budget. It does have to be balanced, and it does have to have a surplus in it. So I'm assuming that's what Representative Woodson was talking about as far as it being balanced, because it can't run on a like the federal government does. We just can't print money to keep it going, and you can't spend more than what you got.
Okay, right. And I'll ask you one more question that relates to state government, Vinnie, and it's even easier than the question about the size of the budget. What two areas of spending, what two areas of government responsibility, only two, eat up the lion's share of the state budget every year?
Boy, you know what? It's like a lot of things too. I was sure pensions, you have to watch. I'm sure you're going to have to watch for pensions on that, because pensions does eat up a lot into it. Benefits, probably medical. The other portions of it, I don't know that. I'm not the chief financial officer, but I would actually have my hands into it to find out what's going on with where it's going.
Okay. Marie Woodson, help us out a little bit here. My question was, what two areas of government spending eat up the lion's share of state budget? Mr. Parlatore said pensions, and I think he said medical. What's the answer?
None of those areas that Mr. Parlatore mentioned eat up a big portion of our budget. A big portion of our budget is allocated. We have a big portion allocated for our education system. We have a big portion allocated also in our budget for infrastructure. So those areas eat up a big portion of our budget, and all the other, we have to make sure the right amount is allocated in certain areas. But as you can see, Mr. Parlatore doesn't have any idea as to what our budget entails in the state.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Now, the answer I think I was looking for was indeed public education. And number two, not far behind, is healthcare. The healthcare budget is astronomical in Florida.
Healthcare, education is one, and healthcare is one. Infrastructure also, Mr. Buskin.
Right. I want to open the floor to my colleague Dan Sweeney if he has any questions.
Vinny, if you're going to win this district, you're going to have to win some Democrats, because according to the book closing report from August, in District 105, there are a total of 110,000 and change registered voters. There's a little over 16,000 Republicans and 60,000 or more Democrats. That's a huge. It's over a 3-to-1 registration advantage. Obviously,
Correct.
you got to get some of them. So what do you say to Democrats to tell them, yeah, there's a Democratic incumbent, but leave that aside and vote for the Republican who's challenging them? What argument do you make to them?
Well, I've been knocking on doors. I talk to both. I'm not amiss from voting for who I think is there. I have voted for Democrats in the past. It doesn't matter. I tell them it's like, vote for the person. Don't just vote for the party. I understand there's a party loyalty also, but what's going on now with gas prices, inflation, it's hitting everybody in the pocket. It don't care who it is with that. So I'm telling them, it's like, if you want safe streets, I'm in there for that. You know, it's not just for Democrat or Republican anymore. It's got to be for, you know, the person. What does the person stand for? You can't tell people things that you can't deliver on. You don't lie about it. You can't tell people things and to get elected, and then you can't deliver on it once you get into office. It's not fair for anybody, and somebody that does that shouldn't be remaining in office on that end.
Representative Woodson, Vincent Parlatore just mentioned, a couple of things about costs being out of control, and he's right. Inflation is sky high. Of course, that's not just a Florida problem or even an American problem. There's, inflation is spiking in developed countries all over the world.
So it is.
But he also mentioned gas, housing, and
food.
I wonder what solutions you have to skyrocketing housing prices and something that ties into that, skyrocketing property insurance costs, which are set to go even crazier given what happened with Hurricane Ian.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Sweeney, for that question. Inflation is definitely high, and we all know it, and we definitely need to do something about inflation. But when we look at what we just went through as a state, we just went through COVID. So that's expected. With everything that COVID has imposed on us, we know that inflation was going to continue to rise. That's one thing. Our kids, our family, our first-time buyers cannot afford to buy a home. And it's a fact. It remains a fact, and we cannot blame it on one person, because Mr. Parlatore cannot say that I came in, I say that I was going to do this or I was going to do that, and I did not deliver. I deliver more than I said that I was going to do, in the sense I went to Tallahassee as a newbie, as a new person, and I was able to accomplish so much, and I'm proud of my record. But when it comes to affordable housing, I know it's an issue, and this is something that I'm working on. I introduced 2 bills in order to start addressing the affordable housing issues. Unfortunately, my colleague did not put those on the agenda in order for them to succeed, because when I'm looking at kids getting out of college, cannot afford to rent a home, nor an apartment, nor buying a house. To me, we need to do something about it. We're telling them to go to school, and then when they come out, they cannot live the American dream. So I want to continue to work in that area. As you can see, one of the bills that I passed was homeless youth, to address the homeless issue that we are dealing with, the state that is tied into affordable housing. And so I'm working to do something, but we all need to work together. Whether you're a Republican, whether you're a Democrat, put party aside and try to do something to address this crisis that we are facing when it comes to affordable housing, because housing is not affordable in our state. Property insurance. We went to Tallahassee to really address this property insurance is homeowner property insurance issue. What happened? We allocate the money to the insurance companies. Now we need to do more. We need to do better. Yes, it's a crisis. We have to try to address it at all angles. But guess what? The homeowners are not seeing it yet. And we have a lot more work to do. We need to take this issue more serious than we need. And just remember one thing that Mr. Parlatore might not be aware of. One person cannot do something in Tallahassee. You have to work. As I mentioned earlier, 78 Republicans and 42 Democrats, which means we have to work together for the good of all Floridians. So I intend to work on both of those issues very hard with my colleagues in order to bring some relief to the people of Florida.
How? I mean, that was a very long answer, but I would like to know, like, first off, what ideas did you mentioned you had 2 ideas that didn't get hearings on this subject. I'd like to know exactly what those ideas were. And going forward, you said that property insurance, homeowners are not seeing any of the savings from the bills passed in the special session. Does that mean they will in the future? These bills actually will be good at some point for homeowners, or has Hurricane Ian thrown that out of whack? Well, that's one question. And what proposals did you have that didn't get heard?
Okay, for affordable housing, one of them that I had was to give a tax break to landlord who would be willing to rent to kids or to kids below market rate value. Give them a tax credit, because I tried the first time to give an incentive to those kids, to give a break to those kids by giving them a voucher in order for them to be able to rent with the option to buy at a later time in order for them to become homeowners. It was not put on the agenda. That's one thing, because we have the Sadowski Fund that is there to help families. We've been raiding the Sadowski Fund. There's no money in there, which is wrong. We need to reinstate the Sadowski Fund in order for us to have money to allocate for affordable housing. But when it comes to the younger generation, we need to do even more than that. So my bill was supposed to give some relief to those kids, not only to give a tax break to those landlords who would be willing to rent to them below market rate value, and also to give them the option to buy after they rent. So this was a solution that I proposed to address that one. That was one. But a second one, I want us to reinstate the Sadowski Fund, to put money in there as opposed to taking money out. And when it comes to property insurance, we need to really look at this issue closer. We need to have a commissioner, to appoint a commissioner with a task force, as I mentioned in my questionnaire, to deal with this issue, because one person cannot come up with the solution. A solution that I would propose as well, the emergency fund, the CAT fund that we have, instead of that, why don't we also allocate some funding for those insurance companies who provide car insurance, to bundle it, to allow them as well to have property insurance with the car insurance. So those are solutions that we can look and try to bring back up.
I mean, they already can bundle it, but are you talking you would require them that if they offer car insurance that they would have to offer homeowners insurance in the state?
They can offer insurance as well to make it more open to everybody else, because right now we have some people who can't even find insurance in order to make sure they have the proper coverage. The premium are too high. We can decrease the premium if we allocate some funding. And we do have a lot of reserve. So why don't we take some of the reserve? We're bragging about we have so much reserve. Why can't we take some reserve to address this issue that we are facing as well?
Mr. Parlatore, I'd like to hear your views on the subject, particularly, this special session they just did on property insurance. There's a massive I want to say massive, but $2 billion, which sounds like a lot for a reinsurance fund, but given the tens of billions of dollars of damage that just happened, it's probably not that much. So what are your solutions now in the wake of Hurricane Ian as far as homeowners insurance in Florida?
Well, that's going to be rough. I know all our insurance goes up every year, whether we submit a claim or not. I would only hope that we don't have to pay for everybody else's, but it just seems like it has to go like in a pool of money to help everybody else. And if I can back up a second, I wasn't referring to Representative Woodson when I said people weren't delivering. I was just speaking in generalities when people were getting into offices saying this, that, and the other thing, and then they can't deliver on it. So I wasn't speaking of Representative Woodson because I know she's working hard. As far as that goes, the Florida Insurance Guarantee Association, that's also, and I believe that came up somewhere around 1970, and that's been putting surcharges on the insurance premiums, which isn't helping either. Representative Woodson, she probably knows more about that since she's up in Tallahassee directly. about how that actually would help somebody if we can keep that that stipend, that surcharge is off of that program for a while. If that would help or not, I don't know. Again, I'm not in Tallahassee to know that. The other thing is flood insurance. Flood insurance is a big issue. The flood insurance is there to protect the mortgage, the lien holders on it, not as much as for the homeowner. That needs to be changed, because in order to have flood insurance to be used, you have to have an adjacent 2 acres of flooded land in order for that to come about. Plus, you got to have a water line in your house. I think that needs to be. It's not addressing an individual home at that point. And FEMA, the last I checked, there were $1.5 billion in the hole. Some houses weren't in a flood zone, like I wasn't, and the last one with their mapping, satellite mapping, put me in a flood zone. I have no water near me. I think myself and Representative Wilson were in a pretty lucky area as far as where the water recedes after a good rainstorm. And FEMA, if I remember correctly again, they're raising the rates at 18% per year with no stoppage on it. So that needs to be looked into too. Plus the insurance, I'm sorry, the mortgage rates are somewhere up around 7% right now, if I'm correct on that also. So, and again, that's not helping anybody getting homes. And now with the home crunch, with what happened in Lee and Charlotte County for sure, now you're going to have more problems with that. I don't see housing going down, but I think things are going to get more manipulated and prices are going to be going up because supply and demand. You're going to have more demand because of these poor people over there that were ravaged from the hurricane, looking to get into homes, and you're going to have people raising rates.
But, I mean, insurance rates are going up, but that's responding to inflation, isn't it? I mean, if inflation's a problem, then our higher insurance rates are just sort of an effect to try to bring down inflation. No, I mean, you can't have low insurance rates while you're having inflation, or otherwise you'll just have more inflation, right?
Well, again, I'm not an economist. I wish I was. I wish I was a Wall Street genius, but I don't see how that would create more inflation by bringing down the insurance if something's being inflated. If you're raising the rates, is that not inflating something to make it harder for the consumer?
It means people spend. I'm going to move on. Steve, did you have another question?
I do. I have one more question. This will be my last question. We don't have too much time left. And I'm going to ask Vinny and Marie Woodson for a 1 minute summation, or a 1 minute, 1.5 minute answer or so to the following very simple question. The same question to both candidates, starting with Vincent. Give us an overall assessment of the job that Ron DeSantis has done as governor of this state.
Well, Steve, I don't see that he's doing anything bad with the state. I think he's keeping the funds within the state that need to be here. Having people not having people dumped on our borders of the state, that's creating problems, more money for the taxpayers to shoulder finances on. Migrants are one thing, illegals are another. My grandparents came into Ellis Island. They came in properly. People that are coming in like this, especially now, it's not good with that. Medicare for all, I don't think that's a viable option. You do have to bring down drug costs and prices. I think keeping a surplus budget that we have, which has grown since last year, I think he's doing a good job and a fair job, and especially with Ian, he's been right on top with that and calling it out, getting there.
That's a minute.
Sure, thank you.
Yep, Marie Woodson, you have the floor. Go ahead, Marie. Give us an assessment of DeSantis' performance.
Steve, let me say to you that the governor is using taxpayers' money to transport migrants outside of the state, which is a no-no. We should not do that. That's one. Second, the affordable housing crisis. He's not addressing the affordable housing crisis, which is a major issue in our state. He is not addressing the insurance, homeowners properties insurance, which the people need relief in. We have been to a pandemic, and we have a total for 22-23, I believe we have a total of $16 billion for reserve. We should be able to take some of that money and address those issues that our hard-working Floridians have been dealing with. And he's not doing that. Therefore, the governor needs to do better by the people of Florida who elected him to serve in office.
All right. That's going to be the last word.
And you say 1 minute, I didn't want to go into more details.
That's okay. We've heard plenty from both of you, and that's great. District 105, important election on November 8th. I want to thank Vincent Parlatore and Representative Marie Woodson for joining us this morning. Thank you very much.